This is Call on the Field Stands here. Special Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Happy Thanksgiving episode. Going to get into some Browns discussion and talk a little bit about these Thursday games here on this beautiful Thanksgiving. And let's kind of get right into it. I'm still trying to figure some shit out. Again, second live stream, and still messing with it. Let's see if I can cut this out here. Should quiet us down. And yeah, here we go. I guess we're off. We're off and running. Hopefully the live stream is working. I tried to get Twitter to work live there as well, but doesn't look like it's really working. So anyways, let me get into it. Plug this over here. Should be good. Okay. So yeah, like I said, going to get into some Browns. We missed the Browns episode last week. Or not last week, but earlier this week when we did the Buckeyes live stream, Buckeyes Michigan live stream. So I wanted to kind of get some content out here. Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, have a little time to kill here, and figured I would, do a little Browns episode and talk about these Thursday night games. So obviously, being Thanksgiving, here by myself in the old basement. My co-host Jeff is with his family back up northern Ohio, Fremont area, trying these multiple camera angles again. Hopefully that they don't become too distracting, and but hopefully they make it interesting. Who knows? So yeah, I wanted to get into these Browns, the Browns game that we witnessed last week against the Dolphins. Browns kicked some straight ass, and getting ready to go ahead to at Pittsburgh and try to get back to 500. Take command over the Steelers in the division, obviously still well behind the Ravens, who are just completely dominating in all facets of the game at the moment. But when it becomes relevant for that wild card spot, beating Pittsburgh today is going to be huge, or Sunday is going to be huge. More or less, the loser of that game Sunday in Pittsburgh is more or less out. It's pretty much an elimination game at this point. Pittsburgh would be back to 6-6, back to 500. The Browns would as well. Browns would have the tiebreaker with being 2-0 against the Steelers. So more than likely, the loser of that game is going to be pretty much doomed. The Browns being 2 games back at 500 if they lose, going to have a hard uphill climb to have any shot. And then the Steelers, they're going to have difficult opportunity as well with the tiebreakers and just their schedule upcoming. They do have some games that are winnable, but bottom line, Browns got to win. It's going to be a necessity for them to have any shot, any chance at the playoffs. So yeah, let's break down real quick what we saw, and this is going to be hopefully a short stream. Like I said, it is Thanksgiving, about 10:30 now. Obviously, with this live stream, most people I would imagine are going to be watching this later, sometime down the road, not on the morning of this live stream and live right now, but wanted to get it out there anyways. And wanted to check this stream. Bear with me here. I just want to Looks like we're good. Sorry for the delays. I'm a little solo producing here. It's pretty difficult, pretty challenging. As you saw last week, if you saw the live stream, I was on the wrong cameras when I was speaking and all this kind of goofy stuff. But anyways, I think we're good. So yeah, what we saw last week against the Dolphins. First of all, Dolphins are trash. They've always been trash. I don't know how they have 2 wins. Obviously, one of them, I believe, is against the Redskins in a horrendous game that was like 17-16 or something like that. And Redskins had an opportunity to win it at the end. They didn't get it done. So they stink. They're one of the worst teams in the league. My prediction pre-season was that they would lose every single game, to be honest. So I'm surprised they even won one game. Funny little thing that I think I saw on Twitter or some other internet-related place. How they do the calendars, the team calendars with the various players and everything like that. They had like a 16-month calendar or something, and before the season even started, only like 3 or 4 players on the entire calendar were still on the team because they just traded everybody with any value. Micah Fitzpatrick, Laramie Tunsil. They have no quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, he does what he does. He's good for a couple scores. Obviously, like we saw him running in against the Browns, but their defense is terrible. Their offense is terrible. So it's hard to gauge too much on really anything from that game last week. Only the fact that they dominated was certainly a plus. You didn't want to lull. You didn't want to have a really close game towards the end and have things be up in the air. I mean, if you lose, your season is over anyways. But it's interesting how it all went down. They got ahead early, I think 28-0 at halftime or right before halftime. I can't remember if the Dolphins scored right before halftime or not. I believe they may have. But anyways, they ended up coming back. They ended up getting to an 11-point game. Just interception and poor defense. But ultimately, they got their rhythm back and ended up blowing them out like they should have, which was good to see. One key that kind of stood out was, Baker Mayfield, I think, is all the way back. There was some question marks midseason about, is he the guy we saw at the end of last year? I think was the question that some people were having. They were doubting Baker Mayfield. Last year at the end of the season, he was as confident as you could ever be as a rookie quarterback. Set the touchdown record, beating Peyton Manning's record, and he looked like the guy that everybody would be running towards, trying to catch up in the AFC North. Obviously, Lamar Jackson has taken a huge leap forward this year, particularly with his accuracy and throwing the ball. Still goofy statistically when he gets under 200 yards and 5 touchdown passes, or whatever he had Monday night or Sunday night, Monday night against the Rams. So he's taken a good big step, leading the MVP race. I've really trashed him a lot on this podcast, and I will continue to do so probably. Like I said, probably eat my words eventually. And the big thing about Lamar Jackson that I think is really making it interesting is I always assumed that defenses will catch up with Lamar Jackson, what he's doing with his legs and incorporating that into the passing game. He's able to use his athleticism, one of the most athletic quarterbacks maybe of all time, in conversations and comparisons with Mike Vick and what he was able to do. But, Mike Vick wasn't as much of a runner. He was more... he was a runner, but he wasn't a designed runner. He would take advantage when plays break down or take advantage when he had opportunities and then use his athleticism that way. They're using Lamar in a completely different way. He is going out and just running run plays for days and making crazy things happen. He's a freak athlete. And but I always said, defenses will probably be able to catch up. D coordinators are too smart in this league. What has surprised me is how long it's taken them to catch up and bridge the gap. And it might not happen this year. That's kind of what I'm alluding to. I always thought mid-season or early season, and even this, as we get down to the stretch, defenses would catch up, figure out how to slow them down, basically would do what the Browns did earlier on in the season and incorporate that into their game plan and really just force them to throw and beat them. But that hasn't been the case. He's athletic enough to make it more challenging, I think, for defenses to adjust. And it might just take the end of the season. It might take an off season for defenses or D coordinators to kind of break down the film, figure out what will work against him. I always thought it would be earlier, and that's why I thought they would kind of struggle towards the end of the season and perhaps even miss the playoffs, but that's obviously not going to happen anymore. Whether or not he's able to continue that into the playoffs and do anything against the likes of the Patriots or the Chiefs or whoever the wild card team is, whether it's the Browns or whatever the case may be. We'll see kind of in a couple weeks what the Browns are able to do again. But it might take an offseason for teams to catch up with Lamar Jackson and slow him down. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully they slow down and the Browns can catch up a little bit, bridge gap, maybe in a couple weeks, get another win at home and go 2-0 against the Ravens for the first time probably ever. I don't know. I haven't looked up the stats. But anyways, when we're talking about the Browns, one thing that we saw from Baker last week is old Baker. Like, his confidence was all the way there. And what we didn't see in the beginning of the season is something that I noticed was it didn't seem like he was delivering through the throw and, driving his hips through and driving through the ball to deliver it downfield. And whether that was a confidence thing, whether that was, he didn't really have any faith in his offensive line to be able to sustain pressure. We saw him bailing out of the pocket pretty regularly when circumstances didn't really require it to do so. But all of that has pretty much gone away. A lot of it's kind of the game planning and the play calling and what they're doing offensively to kind of combat some of the things that we saw earlier in the year. They've only given up, I think it was 6 sacks in the last 4 weeks. So the offensive line pressure, pass pressure, pass protection has certainly improved. And that's been major keys and major reasons why Baker's been able to regain his confidence, regain his success, and figure out how to orchestrate an offense successfully. And that's kind of what we saw, obviously, on last Sunday against the Dolphins. He was driving the ball downfield, making great throws, doing everything that we've seen him do at the end of last season and also over the last couple weeks. The last, I'd say, 3-4 weeks, Baker and that offense have been clicking on all cylinders. The addition of Kareem Hunt obviously has been huge. He has done everything that's been asked of him. He's great at blocking. He's gotten a few more carries as of late. He's still a threat out of the backfield to catch passes. He's lining up in the slot, creating havoc there. And it's just another component that defenses have to plan for, adjust to. If he comes in the backfield, him and Chubb, and he goes out in the slot, what's the defense? How are they going to react? Are they going to commit to trying to stop Kareem coming out of the backfield from the slant? Are they going to shift their defense, get confused a little bit? Is that going to open up running lanes? Is that going to open up passing lanes? All these different things kind of play into it of what's going right for the Browns right now. And obviously, like we said, the schedule has been a little bit easier. The Bills are still a solid team. I think 8-3 now. The Steelers, obviously 6-5. Browns beat up on them a couple weeks ago, and now we're back to the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road this time in a hostile environment, coming off of what happened 2 weeks ago with Myles Garrett and Mason Rudolph, who is now benched. Unfortunately for the Browns, they benched Mason Rudolph because I think he's trash, and they're a better team with him on the bench, and that is unfortunate. Not that Duck Hodges, this Devlin dude, everybody calls Duck, is going to be anything special that I'm too worried about, but it's still going to be a tough game, rivalry game, in division. It's still a 6-5 team. They're above 500 for a reason. They didn't accidentally, they're not accidentally above 500. They're still a solid team. The addition of Minka Fitzpatrick has been huge. Baker Mayfield's still going to have to watch out for that. Their defense, frankly, is still legit. And that was kind of the game plan heading into this Sunday for the Browns is the same game plan that we saw 2 weeks ago and kind of mentioned it on this podcast. So don't turn the ball over and play defense as well as the Steelers. The Steelers have a great defense. I think the Browns have a great defense. The defenses are more or less evenly matched. So if you can kind of hold your own defensively, then offensively, just get a couple scores, and I don't think the Steelers' offense is going to be able to do anything. James Conner's not going to be playing. Their starting quarterback, they're on their third stringer now at QB. I don't think Juju's playing. I think I heard that earlier in the week, a couple days ago. So they're depleted. Their offense stinks regardless. Even if they had Mason Rudolph or Hodges in, it doesn't really matter. So don't turn the ball over and give them easy good field position, easy opportunities to score offensively, because otherwise it's going to be difficult for them to score. We saw it 2 weeks ago. They scored 7 points, and 58 of their 85 yards came on penalties or something like that. Maybe it was even higher, something crazy. So I'm not even really too worried about the penalties. The penalties have been cleaned up a little bit. The pre-snap, post-snap penalties in particular have been cleaned up. Sometimes you're going to get penalties, holding penalties, and the speed of the game, how fast the games move, and how physical everything is. There's going to be penalties. You don't want to string them together on drives like they did when they gave up that 7 points against Pittsburgh. But other than that drive, everything was more or less held down the fort, and got it done with pretty relative ease. So if you can come out again hot, where you can maybe get a score early, you can maybe, put some pressure on their defense. They have TJ Watt, they got Minka Fitzpatrick, they got talent all across the defense. So if you can slow them down a little bit, maybe get a couple early scores, and then force their offense to do what they're basically not capable of doing, the Dolphins. Hoping that my live stream interwebs remain connected. I'm getting a circle with a line through it. Hopefully we're back. Now it's green. Hopefully it never disconnected, but if it did, my apologies. But my point was, don't turn the ball over. Be smart with it offensively. Incorporate what you've done the last few weeks. Continue that. Build off that. That was one of the key words that we said a couple weeks ago, is just build. Build off what you're doing, all around. And you should be able to go into Pittsburgh and get a win and beat the Steelers for the second time in the season, first 2-0 against the Steelers. Like I said, probably ever. It's the first time we beat them in 5 years 2 weeks ago, so I could imagine they've never beat them twice in the same year, in at least since '99, since we came back. So huge game, get back to 500. The game plan, like I said, is not that difficult. The key that I'm going to be looking out for is, this is one of the first opportunities of adversity where they actually, the mantra for Freddie has been 1-0. You hear it from the Browns in the press conferences and in the locker rooms. All they talk about 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Win one game, become 1-0. The next week is a clean slate, try to go 1-0 again. And I like that mantra. I like that mentality of not looking ahead to what you need to do. They started 2-6. So they need to go on a run, and they need to do it right now. This is in the middle of the run. You need to beat the teams that you should beat. And it's hard to say should beat a team in the NFL because, like I said, every team is very good. Except for a handful, the Dolphins get the Bengals twice. That's really helpful. But the Bills are a good team. The Steelers, if you get opportunity to beat them twice, you jump on that opportunity. So win the games you should win, but with that 1-0 mentality. So what I want to see, from Freddie and from the leadership, whether it's, especially from Baker, but defensively, we talked about the loss of Myles Garrett and who's going to step up from the defensive side to fill the leadership void that Myles left when he got suspended for the rest of the season. And one of the guys that Jeff and I talked about was Joe Schobert. We wanted to see him perhaps step up, linebacker, middle of the defense, one of the directors of what's going on defensively. Wanted to see that, and he has stepped all the way up. 4 picks his last 2 games, 2 against Pittsburgh, 2 last week against the Dolphins. He's really stepped in. He got Player of the Week last week. Want to see that continue and build off of that success. It's tough because sometimes he has looked that he's been outmatched athletically a little bit, hasn't been able to cover in the passing game, and just has been a little bit of a liability at times. But as of late, he has done nothing but dominate, and it's exactly what the Browns needed, especially, like I said, with the loss of Myles Garrett. So you want to see him step up and continue to be that leader and fill that leadership void. We get Larry Ogunjobi back. He'll probably be a nice, leadership addition, presence. He's always seemed to be a leader and one of the more veteran guys defensively, and who's been here for several years now. So having him back will go a long way as well. But I'm really looking for a guy like Schobert to continue and be able to direct around the pressure that's going to be on this game. And that's what I mean about Freddie Kitchens and what I want to see from the leadership and building off of the success we've had. This is one of the first times we've had this adversity. Beating Pittsburgh last 2 weeks ago was a big step towards getting back to 500. But ultimately, it was a game that, it's difficult to win games when you're 2-6, and they've been able to string a few together. And Pittsburgh's a good team, so I feel like the pressure on that game wasn't as high as the pressure that's upcoming on the road to get back to 500, to continue the opportunity to have a playoff push all that kind of stuff. It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge and it's going to be a tough game. So I want to see Freddie and those leaders like Baker and Schobert and some of them other guys. Juice has been huge, continues to just dominate, continues to be a leader in all facets on and off the field. He's been the guy for the Browns offense. When you look at one of the guys, I guess I should say, Chubb, he does it more with his play than his vocal. He's not very vocal, doesn't really say too much, but he's obviously become one of the lead by example type leaders on the offense and led the way there. And then obviously Baker is the captain of the team, as he's been called by guys like OBJ, the general, I think is what OBJ called him earlier in the season. So those group of guys need to be able to keep the guys focused and on the task of that 1-0 mantra to win this game and get to 500. Now you got the Bengals next week. Should be more or less a cakewalk. Don't want to overlook a team ever. They put Andy Dalton back in this week after benching Ryan Finley, rookie who has been atrocious. Their team sucks, so they have no offensive weapons. Everybody's hurt. A.J. Green hasn't played all year, and their defense is one of the worst I've ever seen. So look at their stats. And then that's the thing, too. Like, the Steelers scored, 17, 16 points against one of the worst defenses we've seen in the Bengals. Another opportunity to that has shown that their offense is very limited. If you don't give them turnovers, you don't give them in good field position by giving them the ball and committing penalties, things like that, they're going to have a tough time scoring against any team. And when they're scoring not even 20 points against one of the worst defenses in the league, that kind of showcases that. So, huge game, get to 500, win against the Bengals. Now you got a real legitimate opportunity to go on a serious push for this playoff. Ultimately, you'd have two big games that are more or less losable. I don't think the Bengals are losable. That's 2-0 right there. All hell will break loose if they lose one of those games to the Bengals. But you'd have at the Cardinals, home against the Ravens. So at that point, you got a chance to go 1-1 to get to 9-7, perhaps 2-0 to get to 10-6, and put yourself in a real position to make the playoffs. So that's kind of what we're looking forward to and looking ahead towards this Sunday against Pittsburgh. Like I said, game plan is just don't turn the ball over, don't commit stupid penalties. Obviously, like I said, penalties are going to happen, but those pre- and post-snap penalties are unacceptable. We can't have those. And just stay disciplined on defense and stay in your lanes and don't get too overly aggressive, but at the same time, still be aggressive as well. But we don't want that over-aggression to turn into, wide-open blown coverages or late hits on a quarterback that give him 15 yards and automatic first downs, things like that. So you stay disciplined. You don't turn the ball over, and it should be a more or less easy victory this Sunday. Don't want to call it easy, but it's certainly a winnable game that one would assume they should win that game. And, that's kind of what I'm excited to see, what I'm looking forward to this Sunday. I'm trying to think of any other talking points so far as the Browns are concerned that I want to get into before we head into this big rivalry week. Obviously, Buckeyes Saturday, Buckeyes Michigan, and then Browns Steelers. A big opportunity for the fans out there of both of those squads, Ohio State and the Browns, to have a big weekend. Same with Jeff and the Browns, I guess. If some miraculous victory comes out of Ann Arbor for Michigan, but I don't really see it happening, as we broke down in long depth in our last episode, so check that out. I'm really looking forward to this weekend. I pretty much say that every week, but it's always true. It's fun when the Browns are winning games and being competitive, and they have the talent that they do, and we're seeing guys like OBJ getting touchdowns and Juice Landry all over the field, and Nick Chubb, now Kareem Hunt, and all these guys on defense as well. It's just a fun time to be a Browns fan. I still had to rep my Myles Garrett jersey here. Didn't really talk too much about that in recent weeks, but, ultimately just to highlight one point there, and the reason why I'm still repping the Myles Garrett jersey here. Very disappointed in Myles, very embarrassed. I don't know, he is as well in himself, and emotions high. I just kind of ripped my jersey off after it happened and kind of put it in the closet, figuring that I wouldn't wear it the rest of the season. Then to settle down a little bit, got composed, and realized, this is just a crazy incident, crazy moment. I'm still going to support my guy. I still think he's a good dude off the field, a good human being, a good person. He had a crazy moment that he snapped, obviously, but I don't think that takes away from who he is as a man, and I'm going to still support him. He's still on my team. He's still my guy. I still like him as a man and a human. Never, got to meet him, but what I see on social media and everything you read in his articles that get posted by the likes of, The Athletic and places like that kind of give a behind-the-scenes, deeper dive look at guys. Still going to support him. Looking forward to him coming back next year and kind of having his mind right, reset a little bit, and play the game in a different manner, and just continue to dominate. He's a stud, one of the best defense pass rushers in the league, and it's unfortunate that he's out, but I'm still going to support my guy and wish him good mental health as he kind of gets past these next few weeks and rounds out the rest of the season, gets to the off season, kind of regroups and gets back to it next season. So that's why I'm wearing a Myles Garrett jersey, as you can see here. Not going to stop wearing it. Going to keep supporting my guy. So anyways, one thing I wanted to do before we wrap up this quick episode here on Thanksgiving. Again, happy Thanksgiving to all. Wanted to look real quick ahead to these games that are coming later today. Let's see if we can pop this up on the screen here. Whoops. Let's add all these. Here we go. And there we are. We've got Bears at Lions, Bills at Cowboys, Saints at Falcons. We got some lines here. The Lions just benched Jeff Driscoll this morning, I saw. So the line last night when some certain people may have put money on the game. I'm not sure who would have done that. But anyways, it was 3.5 as of yesterday. And so let's see if we can move this down a little bit. Whoops. It's up to 6 now, which is interesting. I think that game is going to be a slaughter fest, to be honest. It's difficult to really have any faith in the Bears. I put money on the Bears. I mean, somebody may have put money. I don't know, not me. No, but, the Bears at +6, or at -6. The Lions stink. That's bottom line. The Lions stink. They have no QB. Once Stafford got injured, their season was more or less done. Losing last week to the Redskins was a demoralizing loss, I would imagine. It's going to be difficult to come into that locker room. Thanksgiving on a short week. Maybe Thanksgiving gives them a little bit more juice and a little bit more boost to kind of battle out there against the Bears. But I think the Bears are going to get the running game going, and they're going to end up winning the game by probably 10. So that's kind of the outlook there. The Lions stink. That's pretty much the bottom line. The Bears aren't very good either, but they're not as bad as the Lions. So anyways, we'll skip ahead to the Bills-Cowboys. Cowboys, 6.5 favorites. I think it was 7 as of yesterday, so it's moved a little bit. People putting on the Bills. The Bills have a good defense, as we saw with the Browns, and as they've played basically all season. I can't remember off the top of my head the stats. I have to look it up, but they've had obviously 3 losses and a combined loss total of 30-something or something like that. They lost close game to the Patriots, I think 3 points, something like that. Then they lost 18 or so to the Eagles. As you probably hear my dog barking upstairs. Hopefully that doesn't make it into the podcast, but if it does, hey, we're in my basement. What are you going to do? They lost they got kind of blown out a little bit by the Eagles, and then obviously the close game with the Browns was a 2, 3, 4-point game, something like that. So, they've played teams close all season. This was more of a tough one for me. The Cowboys didn't really play that well against the Patriots the other night, Sunday Night Football. The Patriots kind of had their way defensively against the Cowboys. Had a little bit of help by the refs there. Some questionable tripping calls, especially on that last drive I think it was 3rd and 1, and Zeke gets a little wheel pass, first down, and they call it back on a tripping that was just non-existent. Nobody tripped anybody. He called it on a lineman who just basically pushed a guy and blocked him, and they called tripping. So got a little help there, but other than that, they didn't really play very well. Had a block punt that happened to them from the Patriots. This was kind of a tough game for me, but ultimately I am going to take the Cowboys here at -6.5. I think the running game really gets going a little bit. Zeke has had a slow few weeks. They haven't fed him as much. They haven't been getting anything really going on the ground. Dak Prescott has played better as of late, and not last week, but more or less as of late, been playing better. Amari Cooper with 0 catches, which was wild the other night. But I think everything gets righted a little bit. Going to be a close game. But I do think what ultimately happens, I don't think the Bills are going to be able to score very many points. The Cowboys' defense is good enough to slow them down. See this game being close all game, and then ultimately the Cowboys score a field goal or a touchdown late to cover the spread of 6.5. win by about 8 to 10, 11, something in that range. Like I said, scoring late and basically putting the game away as they kind of get the running game going, especially late. And Zeke's going to kind of dominate the fourth quarter and put the game away and cover that spread. And the last game, Saints at Falcons. This one is, I think, an easy victory for the Saints, plus 6.5. Just got beat up pretty badly at home against the Falcons a few weeks ago. They've been playing good ball. Other than that, the Saints have, and the Falcons have been terrible. I mean, they've won a couple games, been a little bit better as of late, but ultimately, I think this line and this spread is a moment, get caught up in the moment type situation, however you want to say it, where we saw what happened a couple weeks ago. The Falcons have been playing better. The Saints have, played a little bit not as good as they were earlier in the season, but they still got Mike Thomas. They still got Drew Brees. Drew Brees is throwing like over 85% when even targeting Mike Thomas, best receiver in the league. So I think the Saints are going to blow them out, to be honest. I think they're going to score early. Their defense is going to step up, get some stops, and they're just going to keep their foot on the throttle and end up winning by multiple scores in this game to really revenge that loss that we saw a couple weeks ago where the Falcons just beat them up and kind of right their path a little bit, get back on the right track as they were earlier in the season when they were just dominating, especially defensively. They were dominating earlier in the season. I think the defense steps up in a big way today, and they handle the Falcons with ease and cover that 6.5 spread with ease. So, looking forward to these games. Thursday, Thanksgiving Day games, always fun. The atmospheres, watching on TV, they have a bunch of cool different segments that get people's families involved. It's always fun. It's good times when you have these Thursday day games being on Thanksgiving. So I'm looking forward to it. Going to be a fun day. That's more or less all I got for Call on the Field stands this week. Like I said, wanted to just do a quick episode where we got some Browns discussion and Browns talk in there. Check out our long-form podcast that we had on the rivalry between Ohio State and Michigan. That was posted Monday as a live stream and on the podcast platforms Tuesday. Can be found there. This will do as well on the podcast platforms and all of that kind of stuff. So check them out. Looking forward to this weekend. Going to be a huge rivalry weekend. Go Bucks, go Browns. Going to be fun. Looking forward to it. And like I said again, happy Thanksgiving. And we will talk to you soon. Peace.